It was amazing when the Paralympics were here. Buses, everything, trains. I seem to get to more places during the Paralympics than I do now, and that was 4 years ago.
One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you one way.
The Games did bring some improvements to the transport system. But as a disabled Londoner, I still find getting around the capital a struggle.
I wanna meet you one day, maybe next week.
I don't want to be 101 and still talking about transport not being accessible for all.
20 years since it became illegal to discriminate against us, we are still struggling to get around. Gina is a northerner who now lives in South London. Like me, she uses wheels.
So Gina, how has having a scooter changed your life?
It means I can get out and I can get where I need to go on my own.
Gina regularly travels to Morecambe to visit family. She can get as far as Lancaster on the train.
Got me to Lancaster without any problem. They asked the driver of Northern Rail train if I'd be allowed on. He shrugged his shoulders and went, yeah. And he got the ramp up. I got on, arrived at Morecambe, I got off, and there was absolutely no problem. On the return journey, it was totally different. Got a different driver who just took one look at me and said, can't get on with that. I said, but I've done a journey with it, don't matter, can't get on with that. I said, but I have to get to Lancaster for a train connection. And he just kept saying, no, not allowed. You can only get on if you dismantle it and carry it on yourself. And I said, if I could do that, I wouldn't need the scooter in the first place. But in the end, I had no option but to go all the way to Lancaster on my scooter in the middle of winter. And it's a good 4 miles to get to Lancaster station, and it's also uphill at Lancaster.
Gina teamed up with campaigning organisation Transport for All, who have been pushing train companies to let scooter users travel. Northern Rail wouldn't budge.
And got a really awful reply, more or less saying to me, well, if you want to travel with us, we suggest you get a wheelchair.
Northern Rail say their trains were built before scooters, and say varying platform heights and different rolling stock can make using a scooter dangerous. But they say they're working towards accommodating the needs of everyone. Never mind getting on trains. In Somerset, disabled passengers at Nelsey Station struggle to get onto the platform. There's a ramp on one side, but it's meant for goods, not wheelchairs, and it's steep. Local campaigners have been complaining about it for years.
Got to find my zen. Coming down, I felt all of my organs move at the top, and it was really scary because I started to pick up speed halfway through. And I have like a power chair, so for it to pick up speed, it has to be extremely steep. And then when it leveled out, I slowed down, and then the bottom wasn't as bad.
I got away lightly. Andy didn't.
And I went over the lip and I thought, oh, I've got this under control. And then suddenly, oh my goodness, it's like some sort of cartoon and it was me, and I was going so fast. And I hit my head on the retaining wall. And then I saw the blood dripping from my wound onto the tarmac. And I thought, oh gosh, this is serious.
It's been 8 years since the campaigning group started lobbying. Sadly, 3 of the originals have died.
They've been telling me the project's shovel-ready since 2014, which is their term for just waiting for the contractors to start. And it just seems to be one excuse after another. My message to the train companies, whoever they are, is that when you make these promises, what may seem just a few years down the line to them and not much of a delay, with people with disability and progressive conditions, that delay can make the difference to whether you're physically capable to make the journey you want to do.
Great Western Railway said they are prioritising upgrading stations that benefit the most number of passengers first, and that now 2/3 of their stations are step-free. They say there's funding in place for Nelsey and are hoping to carry out works as soon as they can. With all the trouble with trains, I'm thinking it's time to resort to taxis. But 200 miles north in Keighley, Tom Walsh and his friends wouldn't recommend it.
It started in about 2009 when I found out that I was being charged more to get from Keighley to Bradford compared to a friend who's not in a wheelchair.
Tom and the other local campaigners researched the price differences. They revealed that some private hire firms were sometimes charging wheelchair users twice as much.
It's not your fault you're disabled, and it's not your fault that you need an accessible taxi and you feel like you're penalised because you're disabled.
If a restaurant has become wheelchair accessible, would it be fair for the wheelchair user to having to pay double for their meal, whereas everyone else would be charged the normal rate?
I check out the public transport first, and if there isn't any good public transport, I'll either not go or I might have to cut my trip short.
There are places that you can't get to by bus because the pavements aren't accessible.
It really makes me mad the way they treat people, and I won't have it. I'm very strict on that. I don't have any nonsense from any drivers because I don't see why they should treat us like that. We're only human, we're disabled, but we're human. And it's not right.
Like my newfound friends in Keighley, I'm fed up of relying on others to get me where I need to be. So I'm going solo. In a few weeks, I'm going to start learning how to drive. And I hope public transport will be taking lessons too in making travel better for disabled people.